Joining us right now is IBM's chairman and CEO, Ginni Rometty. And Ginni, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So this is what the street had been waiting for.
Yes.
For the revenue to really turn, for the new businesses to kick up the revenue that they'd been putting into it. How do you feel about things?
Oh, look, I feel good. I am very proud of the team. I got to start there. I really am proud. This has been a number of years of repositioning IBM, of reinventing the portfolio. That's what you just referred to, right? So, I mean, now, after this quarter, actually started in third. It improved third quarter. Then you saw in fourth quarter, you saw the growth. And I have to say, given the introduction, though, you know, it has been like 5 years of currency impact, too. Right. So I do want to really point that out. So this was both at constant currency and at actuals. And now, we've got to focus on really accelerating back to, I know one of the topics I've seen you guys talk about is these stable margins. Because we're a high value
That was my
business.
next question.
Yeah, I figured
talking to analysts, you've been watching carefully, and that's the one thing the analysts have told us, is that they like to see the revenue there. They're looking at the new businesses when it comes to the cloud, when it comes to AI, when it comes to blockchain. When do you think those margins can be improved, and what's your guidance that you're giving?
You know, and I'd watched you made a comment on that. First, kind of, I think, a misconception about margins, because what do you think our margins are? I mean, our gross profit margins, you know, when we ended last year for the full year, they are 47.4.
I think what they're talking about there is the new businesses versus the old.
Yes. So let me, and if you look over a 10-year period, the line's like this, right? And so those businesses are actually higher margin than the core businesses, the new businesses you mentioned. Yep. Okay. So when we look at those strategic imperatives, but they are for two, I think, really straightforward reasons. Okay. One is that the cloud for us, which we had great growth, you saw it, 30%, $17 billion. Think of this, when you do something standard versus custom, there's more margin in it. So the more we shift to the cloud with us, it's actually accretive to our margins. Okay. And then the other piece is the new areas we've gone into, they're all software as a service, they're cloud. They have higher margin as they scale.
So what are the analysts missing? What are they?
So I think this is just a matter of, we talked about our services business and continuing to improve there. But so this is just a matter of, I think, us scaling those businesses to see that improvement. And that's really my focus now. You know, we talked about we're a high value business. That means next step, stable margins. We'd been investing so heavily, right? So investing so heavily, and so now you start to get the benefit of that as you scale from those investments.
Go ahead.
One of the topics that we talk about often, especially when it comes to IBM, and we've had a number of your people on, is blockchain.
Yeah, I love it.
You've invested heavily there. Yeah. When is there going to be a profit piece to that, though? Because everybody that we've talked to thus far has said that's a hard business, and it's hard to even see when the payoff happens.
You know, I don't feel that way about it at all, right? Okay. Because you guys had on Maersk earlier.
Yep. She was great.
And he was on to talk about the joint venture we just did with Maersk, and just earlier today. And you know, if you look at all the even just maritime trade, right? There's in total, it's $1.8 trillion of moving goods around the world. And so to take the friction out of that, that's normal supply chain work. And this is going to be redoing that supply chain work, right? So I see it already in the projects, 400 projects underway. And it's not only the software, it's all the services.
So it's adding to the services business, effectively.
And a software platform, but both sides. Both sides.
Repatriation or manufacturing, anything going to change after
for us?
Yeah.
Well, you know, I got to tell you, Joe, over the years, I have made so many calls on tax reform in Congress and in the Senate, and so I'm a big fan of tax reform and repatriation. Given the way we've been set up and our length of time of being in business, 106 years, we've been able to move our monies around pretty freely as we've needed, and we've just paid the tax. So we've been a strong proponent. While in the short run, it's a bit of a headwind for us on rate, in the long run, it'll be a good thing for us.
Would it change the calculus of where you build new facilities at all?
Probably not right now. And only, though, for the most part, it's because being global, we're pretty well globally dispersed right now.
Globally dispersed.
Yeah.
What was there was a huge year-over-year number. Was it mainframes or some old machines? Was up 70%?
No. This is not an old. I have to give you a separate lesson on this. This machine has been so reinvented. It is the mainframe.
Up 70?
Yes. You have to call it by its real name. It's a Z14.
Okay.
And how big is Z14?
They're tiny. They're tiny.
Just for viewers that I wasn't using the real name. I mean, I wanted so they'd understand.
It is our oldest, youngest franchise. I have to say that. Oldest, youngest. And we ship more than we've ever shipped in history, and for a simple reason. It's been reinvented for security. And so it's always had world-class security, best there could get, and now it encrypts everything end to end. When you think of things being encrypted, only 4% of the world's data is encrypted. 4.
That's it?
That's it. It's 4. So what this does is it encrypts everything, and the benefit is you don't have to change anything in your programs. It's like lifting a switch. You just plug it in, and that is why, that is really driving it. And the other reason is, it really, 60% of what runs on it is open source. It's Linux. And I know people don't always think about us in that. Yeah. We're the main driver of it. IBM is either the number 1 or 2 or at least top 5 contributor of every open source project out there.
Can we
Go ahead.
I just want to talk a little bit about trade because it's such a big issue here.
Yeah.
When you start looking at NAFTA, about 40% of foreign direct investment in Mexico comes from a handful of companies, including IBM. And things are really heating up a bit. Are you worried about what happens with NAFTA? What do you think?
Yeah. Well, look, if you line up the set of priorities and what are the things I work on a policy perspective, trade would be one of them. And I've spent a lot of time as well on digital trade. So of course we would be a strong supporter of free and fair trade everywhere in the world, given we're in 170 countries. And in here, I think the other part is that many of these trade agreements, though, they did need modernization. There really was nothing like a digital chapter in them, nothing to protect IP, nothing to let data flow. So they absolutely need to be modernized. I mean, so my hope is on a NAFTA that these do find a common ground and that they get modernized, which is what they need.
What do you want to hear President Trump say on Friday?
Well, I hope
when it comes to the America First agenda here.
Yes, I hope it is a way to work with all the different countries in what's good for both countries. Yeah.
But better for us.
Well, I think I live in a world where it's fair for both. I have to say that.
Final question,
I believe it.
Real quick, if you could. They always talk about the Davos man, but this year is the year of the Davos woman.
Yes, there's 6 of us.
I think seven chairs, and they're all women. What do you think of the hashtag #MeToo movement, which is one thing that's going on? Meanwhile, what's happening here?
Well, 2 things. First, hashtag #MeToo. There's nothing to think positive about any kind of discrimination, any kind of harassment at all, period, point blank. I mean, I'm fortunate to be in a company that has for decades held that. So that to me is just it, point blank, that's it. And diversity, though, to say, what do you think about here? Look, I think I would really like to get across diversity is much broader than just gender. It is inclusion, whether your sexual orientation, your ethnicity, your religion, it doesn't matter. For work, this is about work and life, having everyone be able to be themselves in what it is they do. And so today, for here at Davos, as part of this, it gives us a chance, I think, to address what is a really big issue on inclusion in its broadest sense. And that's what, it's really part of why I accepted being a co-chair here, was for that, and to get to drive home, I think one of the biggest issues of our time is how to get these great technologies safely into the world and not divide the world.
Ginni, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. It's always a pleasure seeing you.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.